Okay friends, this is the second video of Learn Data with Raw series. And as I said before, we're talking about the fundamentals, foundation, understanding of what data is all about. And in the previous video, I talked about what is data, how does it become valuable by attaching a label. And label in this context is the business domain within which the data is being used. So for example, a number 25. On its own, 25 has no meaning. But 25, when you're describing a person, might mean 25 years old, or might mean 25th is the date of birth of a particular month. Or when you go to sales, the same 25 might mean an order for 25 items of a particular type. So similarly, each domain will attach the meaning to the number 25. That's what we mean by labeling a value. Otherwise, 25 by itself is simply 25. It has no use for any business unless it gets a context. That's how the value to data comes. Okay, so that's what we talked about. So data becomes information the moment you add value. Otherwise, it's useless. So now I was also telling you in the last video, for those that are aspiring and interviewing or coming up to become data professionals, please don't use the word data and information as synonymous. They are not. Then information, once you process that, when you extract the juice out of it, will become knowledge. And actionable knowledge is what is wisdom. So that's how the pyramid of DIKW works. And in this video, we'll talk about the need and the importance for you to master this one pyramid. So you'll understand how every analyst, scientist, or a business leader thinks about data. This is the process, this is the step, DIKW. Okay, and so it explains how the data becomes intelligence, how the data becomes useful, how the data is then processed, either for reporting purposes or business intelligence purposes or AIML and whatnot. So this is the foundation to understanding what data is and what data is not. I hope you got that message loud and clear. Okay, now let's break it down. Data is simply raw numbers, unprocessed facts. We say facts because you gather, you store, and then you need to process it, but they're just unprocessed facts and figures somewhere you capture. And then information, which is the next step of maturity in this pyramid of DIKW, is all about organized data that answers simple questions of who, what, when, where. So using the data and organizing it together in a consolidated pattern, you'll then be able to answer who, what, when, where. Because like I was saying in the last video, a city name, Hyderabad, by itself has no meaning. But as you start attaching other components, other raw data elements, you now start giving it the meaning of what Hyderabad means. Right? It's a state, it's a city in a state in a country. So you start adding those additional data elements, now it becomes information. Similarly, we talked about knowledge, DIKW. Knowledge is nothing but the patterns and relationships and reasons of why did it happen, what actually happened, or what you are trying to describe. So knowledge is that information further processed gives a full contextual meaning and then it becomes useful knowledge for any business leader, for any business process. Then finally, wisdom is the judgment, the action you can take. What should we do next with what we know? Know is the knowledge part of it. So we now know a particular information gathered together in a larger context. What do we do about it? That's the wisdom. And when you actually do something about it, that becomes your analytics or your actionable insights, which is, I've used that term in the last video quite often. Actionable, which means you can act on that. Right? So that's the major breakdown of DIKW, and that's the journey that every data professional needs to go through to become either a data analyst or a data scientist or any other thing. But these fundamentals are very important for your success to become a data professional. Please note. So further building on the explanation of what DIKW is all about. I'll give you a few simple examples so you can further, add your own, contextual examples, or use them when you explain what data is and the process, through which it goes to become wisdom or actionable or valuable. The daily sales numbers that are gathered in any business are simply data. So there are sales numbers, they're all over the map, they're all the place, depending on the number of products. Imagine a company like Amazon that has billions of products sold through its websites all over the world. The numbers that they capture is simply data. But when we organize them by date, by product, by region, or by several other measurements, then it becomes information. Because now organized data has a meaning. You're able to answer a few questions using that information. When we realize a product A sells during weekends, so let's say a particular product sells more during the weekends and less during the weekdays, that's knowledge. And you have drawn that knowledge out by using the information, which is nothing but data, organize it together to answer certain questions. And when we decide to stock more products, those that sell more on the weekends, a product A, product B, if we decide to stock more of those products on Fridays, so they sell more on the weekend, that's wisdom. That's the actionable insight that you have just taken action on, is to stock up more for the weekend, and you'll stock them up on a Friday. So look at this, this raw data gathered through the sales process, then organize that through a date or a product or a region or a sales channel or a particular merchant, whatever that may be. You collate that, you group them together, that becomes information. And once that information is used to further answer questions, like which product sells more over a weekend, that's a question. And you're able to answer it because now you have organized the data by product. You're able to now say this product sells more over a weekend. That's knowledge. And because it sells more over a weekend, you now decide, I'm going to stock it more on a Friday so that over the weekend it sells. That's wisdom. That's the DIKW pyramid through which all data professionals need to go through. So every analytics job, from an Excel analyst to AI scientist, it doesn't matter who. Every analytics job or data analytics as a subject exists to move the information up this pyramid. The raw data being moved through DIKW. And the higher you go, the more valuable your thinking becomes. And that's how you make more money. But you cannot jump to the top of the pyramid without really understanding what actually happens earlier on in the life cycle. And we will see the whys of why, why you need to know the earlier steps as well. Okay, and that there are other concepts around the data quality, availability, accuracy, and whatnot. And these are all part of the data universe. Okay, so with that, we'll jump to an interview moment. Here is my tip to face interviews in this context: is if someone asks you, how does analytics support decision making? And what's the role of analytics in decision making? So simply tell them, analytics converts data into information, and information into knowledge, and knowledge into business wisdom, or knowledge into actionable insights. And the actionable insights is what the business can act upon, the leaders can act upon. So that's how the analytics supports decision making, and that's why business analytics is so important these days. And because it is based on their own data, it is not based on somebody's gut. So it's a fact-driven decision-making process, which is much more accurate than somebody pulling out their hat. Remember, data by itself is cheap. These days, storage of data has become the cheapest commodity out there. You talk about data centers, data storage, cloud data storage, and whatnot. All the storage formats, all the storage processes have become extremely cheap. But the insights that you draw out of this data, that's priceless. Next week, in the next video, we'll talk about what makes data good. And this is where anybody that wants to play at the top of this pyramid of the wisdom area needs to know whether the data they are working with is good enough. So what makes data good? Because not all data deserves to go up the pyramid. We'll talk about it in the next video. Good luck.